In today's video, we're going to be taking a look here at these current conditions where we have a major storm moving in for the western United States. We're also going to be taking a look at the upcoming pattern where cold air seems to be possible in the long range. We're going to be talking about all of these things. Let's just zoom into these different regions. Today's video is probably going to be a little bit quicker. I waited till I went to the gym today actually to make my video, so we're making it a little bit later. And I really wanted to see how the 12Z model guidance went. So we're going to be looking at the most recent and up-to-date model guidance up from today's model runs here. So we can see as we zoom into the northwest, we see this occlusion happening once again. We have a couple of low pressure systems out here, kind of broad low pressure here for a lot of the western United States there, and we could see that there is some flow from the south here for the west coast, and this is bringing rainfall primarily, but some snowfall for those higher elevation areas. Also, as we peek out to our east here, we can see that there is plenty of snowfall happening up and down the Rockies here with some rainfall for more of those valley regions. It's mostly here in the southwest for California where we're taking a look at a lot of the action. We have this huge flow of moisture and precipitation moving on shore to a lot of these areas, especially here along the Sierra Nevadas. That is very impactful as we have extremely heavy snowfall occurring here for a lot of these areas. There's a steady train of precipitation heading onshore. The bright whites, which is pretty much the lightest snowfall we're seeing here, is extremely heavy, and then those blues are blizzard conditions or whiteout conditions. So it is extremely heavy snowfall taking place there, probably accumulating at above 2 inches per hour at this point for those areas, perhaps 3 in those blue areas. So certainly extremely heavy snowfall occurring. And for Los Angeles, we're probably getting a passing shower or two, but primarily the heaviest precipitation is to our north here. So keep that in mind. We do have some showery activity to the east of Los Angeles for areas like Las Vegas and some surrounding regions as well. So we are seeing plenty of that taking place. As we work our way towards the east, the only real thing to note here, we do have what looks like a couple of isolated showers and thunderstorms taking place here in Texas. But as we work our way towards the northeast, we do have some snowfall for more of these inland areas as a snow system is kind of moving in here, as you can see. And this is probably going to lead towards some snow showers throughout northern New England through the day and through the night tonight. Now, what we're going to go ahead and do is move on, talk about that upcoming modeled guidance, where we will take a look at all of these upcoming storms and also that potential cold air on the way in the long range. Now, we're first off going to take a look at this European model. Then we're going to transition over to the GFS model. And then for the temperatures, we're going to do the GFS model and then that European ensemble model to get into the very far long range. Here, we can see that this storm over the west is going to continue to just hammer the west. We have pretty much back-to-back-to-back storms, but it's going to be nonstop. So you're going to feel like it's just one storm, but it's really these multiple storms kind of training into the area. By the time we're reaching Thursday the 12th, though, here, just a few days from now, we're going to have this set up. Later on Thursday, I think severe weather is definitely a threat underneath here, as we have a cold front down here, warm front up to the north, and I definitely think this sector in here for Thursday needs to be watched again, Thursday the 12th. We do have snowfall here for some of the kind of Ohio Valley, upper Midwest area. For Friday, so Thursday into Friday, I do think that thunderstorms and showers and potentially severe weather can't be ruled out for the kind of overnight hours, Thursday the 12th into Friday the 13th here. A little bit of an interesting date there, as again we have this similar setup, still a warm front here and this cold front extending down from the low. So you do have a bit of a warm sector where there's this rushing warm humid air and then the cold front swinging through. I definitely think the setup is there for a severe weather event, maybe a 2-day quick moving severe weather event. We see this is our storm, and look, it slides up, and it's probably like, oh, that's going to be a non-event, is probably what a lot of you are thinking. But what we get is kind of this transition southward to this low down here, and you do get a little bit of a 50-50 low because you get this low developing up here still, but most of the energy transferring down to this one down here. And then we're going to see this one right up the coast like this, and then snowfall on the back end. Very interesting scenario. So we see that one takes over, and then we get snowfall right here. We get this cold air damming because what basically happens is this circulation brings in the cold air on the back end as we have a low basically near Boston there at that point. So that back end snowfall could be pretty potent. We also have a pretty strong high up here to the north, also probably causing some cold air to dam down the east coast. On the the east coast side of the Appalachians, so you have a lot of this cold air working your way down here. So that's what's allowing for this sudden cooling and snowfall to happen here for the Mid-Atlantic. We have DC, Baltimore, Philadelphia, maybe New York City in there, and then all of the upstate New York regions seeing snowfall from this one. And honestly, we'll zoom in and take a look real quickly, but the snowfall from this one is probably going to be pretty substantial. So definitely a bit of a surprise here. I would say, and we're looking at this corridor here primarily, I'd say at least 6 to 10 for a lot of these bigger areas. So Philadelphia is very close to there. 6 to 10, maybe even 10 inches plus for some folks, pushing on 15 plus for the kind of presidential region up there. We have the White Mountains, the Green Mountains, and then even upstate New York. They're seeing some of these 10 plus amounts, definitely over a foot. So this could be a surprise storm where we get more snowfall than anticipated as we get that interesting transition. And it is very interesting to say the least. We'll zoom back in and take a look at the entire United States here. The reason I did that is because we're not going to be taking a look at the total snowfall on this model run. Then what we're kind of left with is this trough in the west, ridge in the east here. And this causes some precipitation to move up like this, possibly some thunderstorm activity underneath here. A little bit of some snowfall up here in the north as we get pretty much a very exclusive cold air spot here in the east for the upper Midwest, northern Great Lakes, and very far northern New England there. Perhaps some snowfall. Then we get our next low developing by about the 19th. We again have this cold front, typical cold front, warm front set up here. Again, wouldn't be surprised if we're seeing this warm air surging in this warm sector, and then the swinging cold front bring another potential minor to moderate severe weather event in here. And I'll draw out the time frame, but day one of this could be for this pocket here. Is kind of where we'd be watching. And that's going to be for Wednesday the 18th. Then for Wednesday into Thursday here, we're mostly watching kind of this southeast region in here with that swinging cold front. So certainly can't be ruled out some thunderstorms. And this is a stronger low, 992. This warm front is pretty impactful with the ice on the front end of that. That is a kind of common occurrence there. And then snowfall here to the north of the low. Certainly a very interesting setup here on that European model. Now for the GFS model, we'll just take a look. We get this, again, this look where we see our storm kind of swing up to the north. Still looking pretty severe here on the southeast end of things. Could have some overnight severe weather. Believe it or not, definitely some windiness is to be expected there. But we get this kind of, well, that jumped a little bit too far there. We get this kind of look where, again, you have this, what was the primary low transition to the south here. And then you get this becoming the primary low and this the secondary low. But again, this is going to cause the cold air to dam down. We have this this type of emotion with a low, obviously. And then you have this high a little bit further south in this case scenario. And what this is doing is obviously the opposite, where we're going to be seeing this cold air here dam into, again, the Ohio Valley, the eastern United States in general. And you get a more impactful trough in this case as you get the air basically doing this. I'll draw it out for you guys. So we're seeing this take place. And then we don't get as much of a snowy solution here, even though this cold air looks better here. We just don't get enough precipitation where that cold air is. But I think the GFS is probably pretty close to a hit. We do get somewhat of a hit here for New England, but it's pretty exclusive here. The cold air will be available, though, if we get this kind of 50-50 low set up in here. Again, low pressure system here to force that cold air down. If this isn't here, then you can kiss the cold air goodbye, because that's basically the main cause here. This high will help for sure, but that wouldn't be able to get the cold air east of the Appalachians. So that's where this kind of low here comes into play with this primary low underneath. It is a good setup, I will say. We get these kind of similar scenarios here. Again, lows kind of moving through the west and then cutting up like this, which would, again, be posing potential severe weather threats underneath. It doesn't look as bad here on the GFS, but the European model is more accurate. Then what we're left with after we get a couple of these big cutter systems is a very positive P&A look. Right after the 21st, 22nd time frame, we get this cold air starting to really force its way eastward. We get a lot of these lows here as well, helping to cause, like I mentioned earlier. And we're left with what looks like a very cold and sustainable cold pattern with pretty much a lot of precipitation moving along this jet stream, which is a good sign for potential cold and snow here in the east. But again, we need to take this with a grain of salt. This is 360 hours out. So we're going to watch this closely, but certainly a very intense looking pattern here with cold in the east being possible according to this GFS model. And again, very positive PNA out west. But we're going to take a look here in a second. We'll take a look at the GFS temperature anomalies, but we're going to take a look also at the European ensemble temperature anomalies, where we'll get another perspective as well. So let's take a look at that GFS temperature anomalies. And it's going to be warm, some cold periods here where we can see, like right around here, the 16th, we see some cold working its way into the southeast, but it's not sustainable Arctic air that would cause snowstorms to be possible, right? And that's what we're all kind of worried about at this point. But then we get this kind of look where we get this connection here, where there is some colder air moving into the east. And it's not that bad yet. It's more neutral, if anything, if you were to take a look at the east as a whole here. Obviously, there's some red, some blue, some green. We're going to call it neutral. But it does look like I'm going to play this in motion real quickly, but this area here is where to watch. And it does look like it wants to send that cold down, as you can see right there. So we're definitely taking a look at more blasts of some cold air later on towards the end of January, and that is a promising sign for cold in the east. At least the coldest air we've seen in January, and there is some signs, and I'll make a long-range video very soon, but there is some signs indicating February could be very cold and snowy. There is some signs in place. We always expected January to be warm. If you watch our long-range videos, now we're seeing indications that February could be a little bit more promising, and even some signs that March could be a wintry month. That's a little bit far out, though. Let's take a look at this European ensemble model, since I've kind of teased it a little bit. We have this warm air. We get the cold air damming, because again, we have our low here, and our high somewhere out here. So you're going to get this flow of cold here. This one plays a little bit less of a part, but this low here is in the perfect position to get that cold sent down. And it might even be more like this, but east of that Appalachian mountain range, because look at it like a bowl. We have these mountains here. It's a little bit inaccurate with the location. Your Appalachian mountains will be somewhere in here, right? And they will basically force a lot of that cold air to stay west of them. If the cold air source, like out here, that's kind of like an L and an H, but this would be more wanting to do this and stay to the west of these Appalachian mountains that are in the way. But if we get a low here, this is what you really want, because this can send that air on the eastern side, the cold air, and this is oftentimes what we see during these bigger snowstorms. When you get this coupled with a primary low to the south, that definitely, first off, it keeps that flow to the south along the east coast, but also brings precipitation with that cold here, and that's why snowfall is possible in these types of scenarios. We get warmer air moving back in, and clearly cold air out west, which indicates a negative PNA. Again, forces that warm air up in these areas, and this is kind of how January has gone if you've been outside, in the east, that is. We see this stick around all the way through about the 22nd. Cold air still looking strong here, but we start to see some transitions here, according to this ensemble model, of some cold out here, which it's an ensemble model, so some are probably still showing the primary cold out here, but there's probably some that start to warm this up, like a positive PNA. And definitely there's some now trending at some cold moving into these areas here, and that's why we're seeing less and less oranges and reds here towards the end. Again, right around that 23rd, 24th, where the GFS also shows this. So we're seeing a more similar look here. Definitely going to see how this progresses over the coming days. So be sure to subscribe, as we do upload every single day, and we will continue to update you guys on all of these things. Also, be sure to hit the bell icon for notifications so you don't miss an upload. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.